Never have a sore back, guaranteed. Hi Kathy, guaranteed, yeah? So many people I see thinking that they're sitting deeply, and they may be aerodynamic with their upper body, but lo and behold, you look at their knee bend angle, and they're virtually standing straight up. So, over the course of a marathon, on average, if you're to add up, hey Travis, add up all your knee bend angles, you want to have an average of between 105 and 115. It's easy to find 105 to 115, but just putting your hands on your knees and sitting back, and that's about 105 to 115, 107 and a half, we call it. Okay? So this is sort of where you want to be throughout the race. That's not to say that sometimes you're not going to be standing straight up and catching your breath, right? And that's also not to say that sometimes you're going to be down here at about 90 degrees because you see Chad Hedrick flying by and you want to get right in on that draft because you say that's the winning break right there. So that means you got to get down low like this, but it's going to be impossible to skate down this low for the whole course of the marathon. So that's why you have to teach your body what it's like to skate at all different sorts of knee bend angles, yes? And say you're so tired that all you want to do is just stop there at the on the boardwalk and sit and have a nice mint julep. Well, it's possible to skate and rest at the same time, and I'll show you how. Because no coach in their right mind would tell you to skate with your hands on your knees, but I'm going to tell you that it's okay to skate with your hands on your knees like this. Like this, I'm taking the load off of my legs. My legs are so tired right now. They're full of lactic acid. I cannot evacuate the lactic acid, and I feel like I have 2 tree stumps instead of 2 legs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hands on my knees, and my buddy Dan Berger, he skates with his hands on his knees pretty much all the time. You look at his knees at the end of a race, and you will see 2 big raspberry patches on his knees. That means that he has pushed so hard that he's taken all the hair off of his knees, and he's actually rubbed a little raw patch right there on his knees. He actually, he ends up mixing apple juice and water together so that gets a little sticky, and with his gloves, he's pushing on his legs all the time, and he does have these raw patches, but you don't need to go that far. I recommend putting your forearms right there on your thighs. And this is a pretty good way to skate too, and you're saving tons of energy. And in fact, in long races, I end up skating as much as I can initially in the early stages of the race with my forearms on my thighs like this. And I end up getting really sore triceps and shoulders. And this is good because it means my legs are doing less work that way. So, if you are feeling very tired at certain times during the race, I will allow you to skate with your hands on your knees. And even if your normal coaches would be yelling at you, I'm going to say, go for it, yeah? Not permanently the whole time, but definitely take a load off sometimes and put your hands on your knees. Feel it. It feels so good that way. Yeah, or you can put your forearms on your thighs like that. And then when you feel better again, why then you can assume your perfect, ideal, textbook skating form. Yeah? So tell me, what are things that you want to know about tomorrow's race that are on your minds? Anybody have any questions? What about eating during the race? Okay. I tend to be anomalous, meaning I'm not like everybody else, and I don't tend to eat or drink too much during the race, but I certainly pile it on the night before. And in Holland, where I really learned how to skate, those guys rarely eat anything until just the very end of the race. But if you are doing a long, sustained effort, I would recommend putting some sweet potatoes in the oven, like I do before I go out on my long training runs. Bake those puppies at about 425 for an hour, and then take them up, wrap them in tin foil, put them in your bag. Sweet potatoes are about the best on the glycemic index that you can find. If you have sugar, it'll make you jet off, but then you'll feel the crash, whereas sweet potatoes tend to keep you burning at a steady rate the whole time. Sweet potatoes, I like raisins and walnuts and bananas, anything. You should probably not change the way you skate too much. Yeah, like meaning don't put on everything new, skates that you've never tried out before. And similarly, don't try eating things that you've never eaten before. So you should probably stick to your schedule. If it works now, it's going to work tomorrow. And I know that a marathon is a very difficult thing, but we're all here because we're all capable of extraordinary things. And that's sort of what this marathon is all about, is being able to complete it in one piece. So here's another question, please. The question is, what's the most effective way to brake should we have to brake? And I know that this race is mainly about going fast, and most people start off on skates and first learn how to go fast. And I'm the reverse way. I first learned how to slow down and stop, because I got on my first pair of skates, I was at the top of a hill, and I had to get to the bottom somehow. And so what I did is I pointed myself across the hill, and I traversed, and I went into a car, and I turned around and went to the other side of the road and stopped, and went to the other side of the road and well, that gave me really sore arms and shoulders and all this sort of stuff. And I figured out later that if you can turn up into the hill before you hit the parked car, why then you can slow yourself down. So my preferred way of stopping has been all these years to slalom. And slaloming is exactly the opposite of a push, whereas we go from bent to straight in order to accelerate. In order to decelerate, you have to go from straight to bent. And instead of carving and releasing the pressure when your skate is pointing straight ahead, you want to continue the carve and carve, carve, carve while your skate is perpendicular to your direction of travel. It sounds more complicated than it is, but if you can scissor your feet, and everybody can scissor their feet, that's really easy, and you can go from straight to bent, you will figure out how to carve so that you can slow down. My preferred way of slowing down, and it's a little difficult to demonstrate, but is the front T-stop. I have the most power if I can get really low to the ground and angle my skate's wheels so that they slide. Especially effective if it's wet out. Very easy to balance on one skate and point that other skate down at a severe angle and slow down. But it's usually a question not of stopping altogether, but controlling your speed. So if you have a heel brake, by all means use it, but I would recommend to everybody here is to learn how to slalom, because you have much more control of yourself when you can slalom. And the trick is, instead of to describe a wide path, to try to point yourself straight down the hill and really work those carves, carve those turns. And that's how you can slow down. Question? My second wheel happens to be different so that I can be even lower to the ground. If you all were to come up here and put your skate next to mine, you would see that even though I have 100mm wheels, I'm still sitting lower than all of y'all with 80s on. Because if I had a big wheel here, and this is an 84, by the way, if I had a big wheel here, it would be scraping the underside of my foot. So that's why I have a smaller wheel right there. Smaller wheel. Who else? Who's got a question? No? No. I'm usually an 83 kind of guy, 83 hardness, but 85s are good too. If you're a heavier skater, you want to have a slightly harder wheel because you will pulverize your wheels so soon if you have softer wheels, yeah. Yeah. Who all else? Good way for uphills, excellent question. So even though there aren't any uphills here, you may be confronted with a blast of wind, and wind is another way to simulate hills. And I guess we have a few overpasses to wind up and over. So hills are a big consideration, and you want to skate a hill a little bit like you would skate